Good morning. Just getting all set up. No, just got that over there. There we go. Chat window. There. I see. All right. There we go. I think that's everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to my morning study session. Working on this warthog here. Let's see, image. Yeah, so for those coming in now or later, my desk is the right height for me. Yeah, for those coming in now or later, I'm Peter SAKIEVICH. I am art professor at the university, and I also teach online at myartprofessor.com, where I try to put together courses that make some of the more challenging parts of art a lot easier for people to actually use, so they can make the kind of work that they really, really want to make. And also have a background in fine art and visual development, and currently working on my own little comic project, which I sometimes live stream the production of. But in the mornings, I like to get up and spend about an hour, hour and a half working on something newish for me, or something I feel like could use improvement. So this summer I've been doing a lot with Blender, trying to get more kind of comfortable with it, more fluent, as I like to say, with it, so that when I want to do something in it, I know how to do that, and I don't have to rely on outside things to be able to do those things. So jumped into working with sculpting recently. So I did a little sculpt of a horned toad bust, and trying to just get used to how the shortcuts and things work in here, along with understanding the texturing and UV process. And so I think it went okay for the first time trying that out. But now I thought, well, I would do a warthog, and this one I want to do a couple other things. So in addition to the UVing and texturing, I also want to kind of look into adding fur and making that look okay. And then involve some weight painting along with the fur stuff. So the first goal, though, is of course to get a good sculpt out of him. And I thought warthog would be good because they've got kind of variations at fur length, and the shorter fur, so it's not as long, except down the spine. And so I thought this would be a good one to try out for this stuff. There's like another view I should have of these guys, but So that's what we're working on here today. So last time I was, this is the third session, so last time I was kind of fixing up some of the proportions that I thought could be better. And today, so we'll probably start with that, just kind of look at it for a minute. I'm trying to remember where I left looking. I don't know where we left off exactly what I was working on. But I'm just kind of looking at it and my reference, and I'm trying to decide kind of where to start with. And I think one thing would just be kind of smoothing out some of the overdrawn bumps on him. The face is feeling much better though. So let's go reposition certain aspects like this bump right there and this thing down there. We've got the tusks in the right spot. And the face feels much better. Little tweaks that could happen on it, but yeah, last time was all about kind of adjusting the basic model that I started with. And I've got the reference right here, so I'm using something called PureRef for organizing and displaying my reference, which is really handy. And I like that quite a bit. So anyway, that's what we're working with today. So I'll spend about the next probably be here for about an hour and a half till about 9. And then that will be that. So, I guess it's Blender. One of the things I like to do with Blender is set my shortcuts. So I'll bring this up quite often. But basically, I like to set it up so that my brush size across applications on my stylus is this front button right here. You can see it there. So I like to take that, and the back one lets me move around in here. But if I'm using whatever program I'm using, this button is always for brush size changes. So I just press it and drag in the air and changes the brush size regardless of the program I'm using. So anyway, I gotta go through and kind of try and clean up these so that's what we're working on today. So yeah, do let me know if there's any questions. But that's kind of the intro to so yeah, working on that today. Good morning. Mm-hmm. Let's see. There's like another line in there. Let's see. And the trick at kind of at this phase of this kind of thing is to kind of really lock into fixing specific things, so that way you can move into the detailing. So that kind of goes like that. Where's that pitch? We could use a better shot of that shoulder. Let's see. Alright, so I might need to increase resolution so I can work on the feet. Good morning. Just need to add a tail on here too. Let's see. Let's see. Looks like this kind of goes in. Good morning. Let's see, let's see if I can find a few more pictures here. Not the button I want to press. Come on. There it goes, back. Let's see if I can get. Let's see there. Trying to see if there's some other reference pieces that might be helpful. Like this one here. That one would be helpful. So we're back. Stop the button I want to press. Looking for some other views of warthogs. Oh, oh. Good morning, good morning. Alright, got that one. Those ones aren't that helpful. Good morning. Good morning. Just I'm looking for, I'm going to find some other kind of views of warthogs that I don't have. I found a couple that are helpful, but maybe that one would be good. So I've got this reference here. I feel like I can use a little bit more. Let's see. Alright, let's see what I got here. Let's throw that in here. Save and jazz. That one might be helpful. Got good strong shadows on it. Yeah, so working on this, my morning study project today is working on this sculpted model here. Alright, so we added in, so I think You are new. This was the 4 or 5, right? So you, and you, not you. I always sort by modified. Alright, these are all new. Let's grab these, stick them over here. So scoot that over. You need to be Everybody else use PureRef? It's a really great app. Should definitely donate to them periodically. These kind of front views. Alright. Let's see if that's enough. You're always looking for more, right? Alright. I want to look at this guy from the rear here. So it looks like it needs to be tucked in here. It is kind of insane how like these animals are so strong with these muscle structures. Alright, puppy. What you doing? Dog woke up. Hi, puppy. Let's see. Those will come out some more. All right. Good morning. Good morning. People popping in. About half an hour into my morning study session here. All right, let's see. Good morning. The ZBrush Bro. see. There. Let's see. Let's see. Look here. There's that. So this kind of comes more this way. That goes like that. That goes down like that. That's better. Let's see. That slope is maybe too high. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's a little too much. Good morning. All right, how's that feel? All right, look on the face a little bit, and then maybe I'll just start to subdivide a little bit more so I get some more detail in here. So, yeah, welcome to my morning studies session. I like to get up first thing in the morning and get to work on something new for me. Let's see. We could use some nice shots of feet. That's okay, I guess. Must be just more geometry on there to do the feet. Alright, so what is our resolution at for this guy here? Double that. 125. Excuse me. Excuse me. Good morning. Sneeze. I just like to put it on there. All right. So we need the feet stuff, right? What do you think of my warthog so far? Wrong button. Looking for you. Alright. So where's the portrait stuff? There we are. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to my morning study session. Let's see. So I kind of think we've got the main stuff roughed in okay. So now we're going to kind of push towards some of these details and things. Let's see. I'm wondering what might be a good idea to do the retopology for the let's see. you. There. What do we think so far? How we doing on my little warthog here? Shall we call him Pumbaa? Hey, Sleepy Bosh. Right, don't forget to save, right? It's always important to save. I think Inflate Brush doesn't get enough credit for its use. I think. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Hello. Over there on Kick. Welcome to my morning study. Just doubled the resolution on this guy, so start pushing some of these tertiary forms, I guess is what they would call it. How are we doing out there? I move around a little bit because I'm actually at this, have my desk set to a standing desk. So did that a few years ago, and I have not regretted it at all. I wish the only thing I regret is I think I wish I'd gone for the four-legged one, went with the two-legged one, and it's okay. You know, it's just like a little bit wobbly, not a lot, but just enough that I notice. So, push that in. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning. Hmm. All right. So let's see. How does that work around the mouth? Like, so that comes down. Hmm. Let's see. Let's see. Good morning. Welcome to my morning study session. Got about another 20 minutes. Let's see. Where's my Hmm. Probably get this up a little bit higher. How about 0.005? All right. inflate. Let's see. Good morning, people popping in. Assuming my microphone's working. Let's see. Getting there, I think. Portrait's looking better on this guy. I fixed up a bunch of the anatomy in the back, so now I can start working on details. How are we doing for time? 10 minutes. About an hour and a half now. So I think that's definitely some good progress on this guy today. Start looking at the feet, I think, maybe next time. Portrait feels much better. Not perfect, but good pull. But I definitely think we've made some good progress. It's sort of cleaned up a lot of the body stuff, trying to get that lined up, especially for the body, a little bit of the legs. Haven't touched the feet in a while, obviously, but and then increased the resolution overall and kind of worked on the portrait here a bunch. That feels much better. In terms of bringing them in line with actual work art. Good morning. Just about to be done here for the morning study session. So just there for today. And we'll definitely be back on tomorrow morning, probably at 7-ish. I got here a little bit after 7 this morning, so that's good. More in line with where I want to be. But yeah, so for those coming in, I like to spend about an hour and a half every morning, for the most part, trying to do something that I have feel like there is improvement in, or something I want to explore and understand better. And so lately, this summer especially, it's been all about the blender. Last spring it was acrylic painting, which is something I wasn't that accustomed to. And so the last month or so I've been doing a bunch of sculpting in here and looking at UV and texturing. Can we do hard surfaces? I have done hard surface. I haven't done hard surface sculpting in Blender, but I've definitely done, you know, hard surface stuff in here. In fact, if I were to pull up my main thing is, well, for me, it's like it's about studying things to improve certain skills. If we were to come over here, this is some stuff that I've done before. You know, this is like more concept modeling type stuff, so it's pretty loose in terms, especially the texturing, but also the model overall. Had fun making this guy once upon a time. This is ZBrush right here. There's a little bit of hard surface in that, but this was a while ago. I never quite finished this project. For this was ZBrush as well. I made a little drone. So, yeah, but for me, like, I wanted to do a number of these animal studies. So I did that bust of the lizard recently. If I saw somebody's there, I could never tell, right? People are popping in, not over, especially over on the YouTube side. But yeah, the main goal, so with this one, is to do a full body. So last time I did a head of a lizard, and now we're working on a full body, and then I want to do some fur stuff on here. So it's kind of familiarizing myself with certain tools. And then, like, for hard surface stuff, I actually kind of want to build some sets for my comic project that I've been working on. But yeah, I don't know how necessary that is for the project, if that's just like going to delay me from completing it or not. But it built a ship in here. I don't know if I have the screenshots for that. But yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not that hard. The hard part of Blender is just you know, there's so many things you can do, right? So you know, it's got all the animation and the rendering and materials and texturing, and it's a complete package, right? Well, ZBrush, it's added some of those things over time. The problem with, you know, Blender is that, you know, it's not always clear where some of these things are at. I have found some decent tutorials online, in addition to ones that I've paid for, but, you know, some free ones on YouTube and that go through kind of the basics of the sculpting process. They do tend to assume that you understand how Blender works, generally speaking. So a lot of people like that, what's it called, the donut tutorial from Andrew Price. There's other ones out there, though, that are, you know, probably just as good or better. That's how I kind of got started those with the donut tutorial. And but in terms of just the actual sculpting process, yeah, it's fairly simple. So this is where your brushes are at. You can make new ones. So like I've made, I think this is the test brush I did for making like a VDM brush. If I put horns on them, how's that look? Or if you want to do like texturing brushes, right? So these are similar to what you would do in. So these are ones these two are from my own textures here on the bottom left. These are textures I bought from a package for like, you know, lizards sculpting. So I think with hard surface in Blender, I think it's better to do a mix of box modeling and sculpting. I think the problem with Blender has is it's much better at handling very large models. So very, you know, very high dense models. But I don't think that it handles the millions and millions you can do in ZBrush or in like Nomad Sculpt, right? So you open up, I have Nomad Sculpt on my PC and on my iPad, and that's very similar to ZBrush in terms of the number of polygons it can handle. This will start to chug, at least on my computer, after a certain point. So one of the things that ZBrush does, I think memory-wise, it's different too, is it runs off of your processor, not your video card. And Blender works better running off your video card, so that could be a big limiter for the number of details that you can do. But again, it has a lot of other things, like the box modeling is much better, and so you can do that type of thing more easily. And there's ways of like getting kind of high detail or kind of small bits to snap to surfaces in specific ways. There's good ways of doing the what's it called when you got the name over here. Booleans. There you go, Booleans. So that so a lot of it's kind of a lot of things are in different places. So but there's good ways of doing Booleans on here. There's lots of add-ons that will kind of make some of that easier. Like the remesh thing, it does have like a quad remesher by default in here, and there's actually one I got called Gmesh. That's or quad remesher. Not quad remesher. What's it called? It's over here. Object. It's Q remeshify. That was free. I did spot one that's actually more like ZBrush. So one of the things in ZBrush I like about how you can remesh things, you can draw curves on the surface, and that helps direct the flow of the geometry. So, which I like better. And they don't have that anything like that by default in here. They do have things that will generally follow the flow of the geometry that you have, but you can't direct it, and you can't affect density. So like if I wanted more detail around the eyes or around the nose or the mouth as compared to his back, I can't do that. But I did just find a new plugin that I haven't bought yet, but I think could be interesting. That it does those things. So you can kind of paint, like on ZBrush, you can paint where you want things to be more dense and where you don't want them to be. Let's see. I sent that to somebody recently. I saved it over here, so I'm just going to find it. So things like that are very helpful. I'm trying to think what else some of the other differences are worth pointing out. Let's see. There it is. Here. I feel like 2 links to get there. There it is. Let's see. This thing right here. SyncTools.com right there. I'll stick this in the general chat. I think that might hit. So this thing works like Z remesher in ZBrush. So basically, it does a better job of like adapting to the topology. It's faster. You can also paint on density maps on it. So similar to what you do in ZBrush, where you can paint like red and blue, and it will change that. You can put on flow guides with curves, which I like. So that was one thing that I was definitely missing when I was working on the other thing before. So I haven't bought it yet. The full version's $20, which isn't very expensive, right? That's pretty cheap. But especially these things right here, like the density maps, face sets would be really helpful. So again, with I think the big thing though that you still really can't quite get is I think that the same level of density that you would get with ZBrush, I don't think you can do in here. But depending on what you're doing, that may or may not matter as much. So like if you look up who is it? Masons. I think. Like these guys do super crazy detailed models, right? No, they seem to have gone full AI bro, so I just sad, but they, these are all 3D models that they do, and they do like crazy. These are all done in ZBrush. but they do crazy paneling, and they have a very particular process, and their videos on how they work are quite good. And one of my goals is kind of once I get to a certain, I want to just do a number of these animal studies first, 3 or 4 of them, just because it's something I want to be more familiar with. But that's these guys. And then someone to point out, though, that does pretty much everything, I think, in Blender, pull him up here, is Fight Punch. Pull up this guy right here. So this is Darren Bartley. Goes by Fight Punch on various social media platforms. But these are all done in Blender. So I think he's really incredible. He's not someone I know at all, but he kind of disappears, and then he'll show up with like a whole bunch of these images. So these are all done in Blender, though, and in addition to being well modeled, they're also just really beautifully designed, right? There's a really great sense of proportionality and gesture and all that really good stuff. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, you can do it, right? They've got the box modeler in ZBrush. There's the Z modeler tool brush thing, right? So you can build stuff that way pretty easily. But people do, there's a number of different tools in there that people use for doing the hard surface stuff inside of ZBrush. Though sometimes they'll start in another program to kind of do a rough, low poly build, and then they'll take it over there. But some of that stuff I'm not quite sure why. How do they do the metal cuts and bending? Well, the metal cuts are actually, they use, so if we were to pull this guy back up right here. So a lot of this stuff that you'll see them do, they'll have like special brushes for that. So basically, these models will have tens of millions or 100 million polygons or more, and they have special shaped brushes that they just drag onto the surface. So, for example, if I were to do something similar with this guy, go back into sculpt mode. Let's see real quick. I've got these brushes in the texture painting area. I'm not sure why the alphas don't show up over here. Maybe they will if I make a new brush. So if I were to grab, say, this brush right here, duplicate it, test, and hit save. And then if we were to go and grab that brush. So they have special alphas that they make. In fact, these Chaos Mason guys, they sell a pack of their alphas. So if you were to go over to their shop, like I bought a couple of their tutorials over time. So I too was like, oh, how do you do this amazing stuff in ZBrush, right? So if we go down, so I bought this one right here, God of Birds, and this one right here, Gendarmerie. I bought those two. But they also have a bunch of these alphas. So if you go look at that, basically they create these alphas, and if the model is dense enough, you drag those onto the surface. So where's my little test brush? Okay, you are selected. Tool. Let's see if I can find different. That's the asset. Let's see if I can figure out what they're hiding down here on my hard drive. I could even make one real quick. They're not hard to make, but trying to see if I have them here somewhere. So I guess it's there's a brush alpha. there they are. So if we go here and I want to add a new texture, open, paste. So I don't know, this one's probably good for what we're doing here. Error. Permission denied. Get my permission. Yeah. There it goes. Now it's working. So we're going to take that and drag that on. Let's see what's up the. Do a negative. That's what they're doing, basically. It's got a curve or fall off on it. Get rid of that. How about we go with constant? There we go. But that's really what they're doing. So they've got like an alpha like that, and they're dragging that in. Now this model isn't that dense, so if it was a lot more dense, it'd be smoother. But that's how they're doing that. And there's different ones that they can do. So if we were to come in here and grab like this type here, you'll see this type right here pretty often, where it's like a half and half thing, that kind of thing. Intensity down. That's what they're doing. And it's the same thing in ZBrush or other programs. They have these alphas that are like that. And these are ones that I made for myself a long time ago. Like this is a scale one that I used in this octopus thing I made in Nomad Sculpt. So these work the same across programs. So so they just make these kinds of things. And some you can buy packs of these things, or you can make your own. So again, these are just ones that I made for myself a while ago. But that's how they do it. And again, this one's being influenced partially by the density of the model. So they want those cuts in there like that. That's how they do that. And you can even reverse them on top of each other. To get that kind of thing. So that's all they're doing for those cuts and things. So it's just they make alphas. Like if you were to sit down and spend like a day making a bunch of your own original alphas, you'd have a whole ton of stuff that would be useful to you. If you look at here, like there's ones for screws and for like radial things, and with variety of different screws on here. Like these graded ones right here, these are very similar to the brush I was just using, right? Triangles with clipped corners, dots, and things like that. So one of the things I do when I'm trying to work from program to program is I like to find out things that are similar to each other. Like I mentioned before, I like to use this front button for changing brush size in digital painting programs. So they'll do that. There's also the VDM thing. So VDMs are basically, they're a mesh. So you can see this blue thing right here. That comes from a normal map of a mesh. And so that's why if I were to draw this here, you get this little horn. So I sculpted this horn as a separate model. And now I can just draw it on the surface. And you can do that with mechanical parts too, right? So I could make, a bunch of screws or other things like this, and you just drag them onto the surface and it adds geometry to that area. You can do this, you can make a bunch of ears or eyes or bumps or scales or other body parts. You'll see people selling packs of those on Gumroad or ArtStation to get that effect on there. Those are pretty. They work the same across programs. So I think Nomad Sculpt does not have them, but ZBrush had them first. Blender added them, I think, a couple of years ago. But you know, it's pretty handy. You can make a bunch of those, and then you have them in your asset library here. Right. Now he's a cow. So, but you could also, you know, you could have like block shapes or other kinds of shapes associated with that that you would just use for those purposes. So, but again, there's a ton of tutorials on a lot of this stuff out there. People that keep track of it. I know there's one of the people who works for ZBrush. He's got like a tutorial on Gumroad. It's called Concepting for ZBrush or something like that. And he kind of goes through all of the tutorials, not tutorials, all the different tools inside of ZBrush. See if it pops up here easily. He kind of updates it every time that there's a major update to ZBrush. Let's see. Search. I'll keep a couple of browsers for purposes. It's got logged in. Application token to email. All right, let's see what do we got here. I think it's this one. ZBrush for ideation. Yeah, this one right here. Yeah, Pavlovich. So it looks like he hasn't updated it in a while, but you know it all should still be work fine. He goes through and kind of goes through all of the tools to explain. Like here's a truck, right? So he's like showing the impact stuff here, which you can do in other programs too. But a lot of it's kind of figuring out how to do things well in whatever program you want, and then transferring your questions about how things work to other programs. And I'll put this over in the chat too. But so this was really helpful for me. So I just kind of go through all the different parts, and that one was actually really helpful. We have some other ones that are older that are kind of out of date, but I don't think these really. It's like I have John Majurabayev's Blender 2.8 for artists thing, and that's really out of date, obviously. And there's a lot of good stuff in there in terms of how it works and designs and things, but it's we're at 5.2. Interfaces changed significantly, and that makes a big difference for how well you can actually follow it in terms of its technical process. But yeah, but that's how they do it. They do those with alphas, and you can make your own. People sell them. These are just ones that I happen to have made a while back for myself, and otherwise, yeah, it's pretty easy to do. So it's not a big secret or anything. But I'm going to call it there. Appreciate people coming in. Don't hesitate to ask questions, and see if I can't help out with the answers to that. Um, and we'll talk to you all next time.